While there are many dangers of hiking, as in bad weather, getting lost in remote areas, depending on your GPS and not knowing the areas, crossing water, being fatigued, and for me, the threat of territorial animals can be the biggest threat. But without those obstacles, the experience can be euphoric and relaxing. But for Darsh Patel, it was tragic. In 2014, Darsh Patel, a 22-year-old student of Rutgers University, went hiking in the Abshaba Preserve in New Jersey with 4 of his friends. While exploring the 576-acre natural area, the group came across a black bear. They stopped and took pictures of the 300-pound beast with their cell phones. After taking the photos, the group started to walk away, but the bear had noticed them, and it started walking towards them. Frightened by the approaching bear, the 5 friends split up and ran in different directions, but the bear kept chasing them. When the 4 of them regrouped after some time, they noticed that Patel was missing, so they called the police. Upon arrival, the police searched the area, and after 2 hours they discovered Patel's body. The bear was lingering around the body and was shot dead by one of the officers. An autopsy of the bear revealed that it ingested human blood and tissue along with clothing, and it also had human blood on its paws. A few weeks later, the police released 6 photos that Patel had taken on his phone. The photos show of the bear approaching closer and closer. It eventually chased him and mauled him as he was trying to run away. It is said that if you encounter a black bear, remain calm, avoid direct eye contact, make the bear aware that you are not afraid by making loud noises and speaking assertively, and to make sure that the bear has an obvious escape route so it doesn't feel as if it's backed into a corner. On June 23, 2018, 12 members of a junior football team and their 25-year-old assistant coach went on a trip to a cave in Thailand. Shortly after they entered the cave, heavy rains partially flooded the cave and blocked the way out. Strong currents and rising water levels hampered efforts to locate the group, and they had no contact with the outside world for a week, actually over a week. Eventually, rescue operations began and involved a massive team consisting of over 10,000 people, more than 100 divers, 900 police officers, scores of rescue workers, 2,000 soldiers, and representatives of around 100 government agencies were involved. Soon after rescue operations started, maintaining air supply became the #1 priority. Hundreds of rescue workers were present inside the cave, which depleted oxygen inside the chambers down to 15%. In the air, the normal oxygen level tends to be around 21%. That is why divers had to make several trips in and out of the cave to supply oxygen tanks. This is the last photo of Thai diver Saman Kunan, who died while performing rescue operations in the cave in 2018. While supplying oxygen tanks to the group trapped inside the cave, Kunan lost consciousness underwater and died of asphyxiation. David Alexander Johnston, an American volcanologist, was the principal scientist on the United States Geological Survey monitoring team. His career took him all over the United States, where he studied various volcanoes. As a talented and meticulous scientist, Johnston was known for his analysis of volcanic gases and their relationships to eruptions. His positive attitude and enthusiasm made his co-workers love and respect him. Johnston once famously told reporters that being on Mount St. Helens was akin to standing next to a dynamite keg and the fuse is lit. He was also one of the first volcanologists to arrive at the scene when signs of eruption first appeared. Shortly after his arrival, he was made the head of volcanic gas monitoring. In the months leading up to the eruption, Johnston and co-workers saved thousands of lives by preventing people from going near the volcano. They sealed off the area despite facing tremendous pressure to reopen it. A number of the USGS scientists were part of the team that monitored the volcano. For over 2 weeks before the eruption, graduate student Harry Glicken was manning the Cold Water 2 observation post, and he was supposed to be relieved by a geologist named Don Swanson the evening before the eruption. However, for some reason, Swanson could not make it and asked Johnston to take his place, and he agreed. While manning the cold water post, Johnston's main role was to observe the volcano and note further signs of an eruption. Before leaving the post on May 17th, around 13 hours before the eruption, Harry Glickman took the famous photograph that we see here. Johnston was sitting beside the observation post trailer with his notebook smiling. The next morning, on May 18th around 8:32 a.m., the volcano erupted. Johnston was the first person to report the eruption, and he was able to make one last radio transmission saying, "Vancouver, Vancouver, this is it," before being swept away by a lateral blast. This is the last photo of David Johnston, taken 13 hours before the eruption of Mount St. Helens. His last words, as we said, was "Vancouver, Vancouver, this is it," before going silent. His body was never found. As we all know, Niagara Falls is a tourist attraction known all around the world. It also had its fair share of deaths, from Sam Patch in 1829, Ed Delahanty in 1903, Charles Stevens in 1920, George Tsakakis in 1930, William Hill in 1951, James Honeycutt in 1960, Hashan Sehi in 1981, Jesse Sharp in 1990, Robert Overacker in 1995, and the woman we'll be talking about today, Ayano Takumasu. In 2011, authorities recovered the body of a woman from the Niagara River. She was later identified as Ayano Takumasu, a 20-year-old international student from Japan. While visiting Niagara Falls with friends, Takumasu climbed over a railing to pose for a picture. She was straddling the railing to look at the falls, and when she stood up, she lost her footing and fell into the river 25 meters upstream from the brink of the falls. Moments before the tragic incident occurred, an Ontario-based couple was also taking pictures of themselves, and they captured what is thought to be the final moments of Takumasu. In the photo, she could be seen in the background. She's wearing a red sweater and appears to be standing on the top of the rock barrier. The picture does not show whether she's standing on the railing or not. This incident was also captured on CCTV along with the recovery of her body caught on camera. On August 20th, 1989, Lyle and Eric Menendez walked into the den of their parents' Beverly Hills home with a Mossberg 12-gauge shotgun. Jose and Kitty Menendez were sitting on a couch. Then Jose was shot. Awakened by the shots, Kitty Menendez got up from the couch and ran toward the hallway. She was shot in the leg, which caused her to slip on her own blood and fall. She was then shot several more times. Both the parents were also shot in the kneecaps to make it look like they had been murdered in connection with an organized crime. Later that night, Lyle Menendez called 911 and screamed, "Someone killed my parents." When the police arrived, their brothers told them that they had gone to the movies and then to the festival at the Santa Monica Civic Auditorium. The police did not suspect them, and they never asked them to go through a gunshot residue test to find out if they had used a firearm recently. Since there was little evidence against the brothers, the police failed to look more thoroughly into them. In the months following the murders, the brothers began spending their parents' insurance money lavishly. Lyle bought a Porsche, a Rolex watch, and a restaurant. His brother Eric hired a full-time tennis coach and participated in a number of tournaments in Israel. Eventually, they left the family mansion and decided to live in condos in Marina del Rey. They drove around the town in their dead mother's Mercedes-Benz, went on several trips overseas, and dined in expensive restaurants. Experts say that they spent around $700,000 in the time between the murders and their arrest. At one point, the brothers had attended a basketball game and were photographed. They are believed to be in the background of the 1990-91 NBA trading card of basketball player Mark Jackson.
Niagara Falls.